Hey guys, today we're going to go over decimal multiplication. Now, if you follow this video through to the end, you'll be able to get an A on your Australian Year 7 Maths curriculum. So let's get into it. This video is going to be comprised of 3 parts. First, we're going to go over our understanding of decimals and multiplication. Second, we're going to go over how to multiply by decimals. So we're going to do one question in great depth to increase our understanding. And then third, we're going to go over a couple examples to make sure we have our understanding there. Okay, so let's get into it. First, what do we know about decimals? So the decimal is this dot here. Now it separates our whole numbers from our numbers that are less than 1, okay? So this 5 here, it comes after the decimal. It is in the tens, okay? So the digits value is 5, but the place value is 5/10 or 0.5, okay? And if we take a look over here, we have 2 numbers after the decimal. So this first 7, its place value is going to be worth more than this 7, but they are the same digit, okay? Now it matters how far past the decimal they are. This number is passed it once, this number is passed it twice. So this is 7/10 and this is 7/100. Now let's take a look at what this actually means when we're doing the multiplication, okay? So we're going to start with 1.7 times 6.2. Now we treat this like any other multiplication question that's set up this way. We're going to do 2 times 1, 2 times 7, 7 times 6, 1 times 6, and then we're going to add them all up and we'll get an answer down here. And then after that, we're going to be moving the decimal place a certain amount of times, and that will be what gives us our answer, okay? So I hope you know how to do this already, but if you don't, let's go through it. We're going to start with the 2 times 7, then the 2 times 1, and then the 6 times 7, and then the 6 times 1. And we're going to write those all down here, our answers, and then we're going to have a plus down here, and then they're going to add up, and they're going to give us an answer, okay? So let's start with 7 times 2, that's 14. Now 2 times 10, that's 20. 60 times 7, that's 420. 60 times 10, that's 600. Okay, now we're going to tally these all up. 4 plus a bunch of zeros is 4. 1 plus 2 plus 2, that's 5. 6 plus 4, that's 10. So we carry a 1 here, doesn't really carry anything. Right, 10. Okay, now we have 1,054. Now, 1.7 times 6.2, that's not really 1,054, okay? So now we're going to mess around with our decimals, okay? So how we do this is we count how many digits we have after the decimals here. So we have 1 and we have 2. So we're going to go from back here and we're going to move our decimal forward twice. So we go once, twice, and we land here. And our answer is 10.54. Now guys, it's as simple as that. It's just like any other multiplication question, except at the end, you're going to have to move the decimal forwards a couple times. So when we do it down here, there's actually an invisible decimal followed by an infinite number of zeros. But we don't write that when we have whole numbers. So just remember that there's an invisible decimal right here at the very end of your whole number, and you're going to have to move it forward the amount of times you have digits after the decimal here. So let's try 2 practice questions. In this question here, guys, we have 7 times 24.8. Now, before we get started, we're actually going to make these numbers have the same amount of digits after the decimal, okay? So you're thinking, well, how are we going to add digits after the decimal? It doesn't have any. Now, remember before I told you, there's technically an infinite amount of zeros after all of our numbers after the decimal, but it'd just be ridiculous to show it and insanely time consuming, so we don't do it. So let's just add that 0 here, and that doesn't change the value of our number. It's still 7. There's nothing after the 7, so we just have a 0, okay? So let's go for it now. We're going to do 8 times 0, 8 times 7, 4 times 0, 4 times 7, 2 times 0, 2 times 7. So we're just knocking the times by that 0. But it makes it a lot easier to look at. Okay, guys, you'll understand soon. start with 8 times 0. That's just going to get us 0. Now we're going to do 8 times 70. And that's 560, okay? So 5, 6, 0. Now we're going to do 4 times 0. We're not even going to do that. Let's just ignore this 0 from now. 4 times 7, or 40 times 70 here. That's going to be 2,800. And lastly, we have 200 times 70. So that's going to be 14,000. So now let's add these up and see what we get. Bunch of zeros here. So just 0, 6, 13, so we carry the 1, 7, and 1. So now our answer isn't 17,360, okay? Remember, we're going to count the amount of digits after the decimal, 1, 2, and we're going to come back here with our invisible decimal, and we're going to move forward twice. 1, 2. So there we have it. 24.8 times 7 is going to be 173.6. Here we have the last question. We're going to do 5 times 13.99. And now the first thing we're going to do, okay, is we're going to add those currently invisible zeros that come after the decimal with 5, okay? So we're going to put in our 0, we're going to put in our decimal, and then we're going to add a 0 and a 0. Now this doesn't change the value of the 5. It still just means 5. We're just showing that there's 2 zeros there, and it'll make it easier for us to do this question, okay? So remember, we do 9 times 0, we do 9 times 0. We're going to ignore that. We're going to go straight for the 9 times 5 because we know 0 times anything is just 0. So this is going to be 0. This is going to be 9 times 500. That will be 4,500. Now we're going to do 90 times 500, and that's going to be 45,000. Now we're going to do 300 times 500. That's going to be 150,000. And lastly, 1,000 times 500. That's going to be 500,000. Now, let's add that up. All these are zeros, so we're not going to get anything down there, but we still have to write the zeros because remember, our invisible decimal comes after them. This is going to be 500, 9,000, 90,000, and 600,000. Right, so now that we have our answer down here of 699,500, we're going to go ahead and we're going to do our decimal trick where we move it forward a couple places. Now, do you remember how many places we move it forward? You can tell how many places we move it forward by how many digits we have after our decimals. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to move it forward 4 times. Let's try that. Let's go 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so now our new answer is 69.95. And that's how you multiply it with decimals, okay? So let's go over what we learned one more time. We're going to write out our multiplication like this with our decimals. Remember, the decimals will line up. So even if you don't have these zeros after the 5, you're still going to write the 5 in line with this 3 on the 13, okay? So you're always lining the place values up. You're not just lining the numbers up, always lining the place values up. And now if we just have a number like 5, we're going to add a couple invisible zeros after it, just so that we can understand what we're doing in a much better fashion, okay? And then after that, we're just going to complete our multiplication, ignoring the decimals, pretending they're massive numbers, and then we're going to write this all down, then we're going to add it all up, and then we're going to pretend that there's an invisible decimal back here, and then we're going to move it forwards by the amount of digits we have after the decimal. Now that's how you multiply decimal, guys. So thanks for watching. If you learned anything, leave a like. If you want to see more videos or have any ideas for videos, leave a comment and I will make a video on it. So thanks for watching. Bye.